Hello there, it's Michelle from CNC Designs. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in New Zealand, and I'm bringing you another Global Monthly Video Hop. This month, the theme for our video hop is packaging. So myself and other demonstrators around the world do videos once a month. It's usually the first Wednesday or Thursday of the month to show you different ideas based on a theme. So in the description below, I will have links to all the other videos from the participating demonstrators. So you can have a look at their videos to see what they've designed for the theme of packaging this month. So go ahead, look in the description, click on those links, and hop over to those videos. I will also put in the description any of the products that I show you in this video today. So if you want to purchase them, contact your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Or if you're in New Zealand and don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, you can go to my website, michellekritchley.stampinup.net, and contact me to order any of the products that you see shown here. I also have a blog that I put ideas on as well. And please subscribe so you see future videos, and a thumbs up is always good. So I'm going to do things slightly differently. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I don't necessarily make exactly what is shown at the beginning of the video. I tend to change things up. But with the theme of packaging and Christmas just around the corner, I wanted to teach you how to make a box to package any gift that you might have. So instead of just giving you dimensions and instructions on how to make a specific box, I'm going to teach you how to figure out how to make a box for the size that you need. So if you want to just know how to make the box that I do in this video, just skip ahead and you will see the exact way to make it. But if you'd like to learn how to make boxes for anything in the future, start now and watch through. We will be using a bit of maths, but I will make it easy for you. So first of all, I'm going to do a box to package up some of these cute little Christmas crackers. So I've made a few of them, and this is just showing how they look in the end. You can make them with designer series paper, you can make them with cardstock, whatever you want, and it used the die set cracker and treat box dies, and that's what it looks like. So this big die here cuts out the shape, and then you overlap two of the sections, and it does the score lines as well. So you fold and burnish all the score lines, overlap two of the sections, and it gives you this 5-sided box. Now, if you wanted it to be smaller, you could overlap 3 sections and have a 4-sided box, or you could go even further and have a triangular box if you overlap more of them. And because it already scores your paper, it's easy to put the bits together. So I will finish up. I'm going to do a box for 4 of these. So I just wanted to show you. So that's the box, the cracker already. And so the score lines are 3 sections on either side. So you burnish, which means you fold and rub it with your bone folder to give you that shape, and then it easily bends down so you can make it look like a Christmas cracker. So you do overlap 2 of the sections and just glue them together. In fact, I did such a good job I can't see it. Okay, there, I think that's where I glued those 2 together. So it's quite easy to glue the 2 sections together. Then make sure you just gently push it down there, and then you can tie it. So the most difficult thing about this Christmas cracker is tying the bow, which I pride myself at being good at tying bows. In fact, at my classes, usually everybody asks me to tie their bows. But of course, being on camera, I probably will have a problem with it. There's lots of different ways to tie bows, lots of different tips. You can use a fork to tie the perfect bow. But this one, I've just got some yellow twine with a bit of gold shimmer in it. And so I just do it the way I learned when I was a kid, tying my shoelaces, which most people don't have these days because they have Velcro. So I make one loop and then I put the other loop through the center, which of course is difficult on camera because I'm trying to watch what I'm doing and push it through. Don't know if you can hear the noise in the background. My cat's decided to come through. So I'm trying to pull that other piece through. It's also difficult because it's a very small cord. There we go. So the most difficult thing with this is tying your bows. You could just put an elastic band on there or just tie a knot and be done with it. So there you go. Oh, so I was going to show what was inside it. I put a mini Chupa Chup and a mini Mentos lollies inside. You could probably fit some chocolate kisses in here or some other sweet treats inside. So with making a box to package things up, the best thing you can get is grid paper. Now, Stampin' Up does sell the grid paper. You usually see it on the background to keep things clean. One side has centimeters and little squares at every half a centimeter. And the other side, this one's a bit dirty, has inches, and the little squares are at 1/4 inches. So whether you're doing imperial or metric, the grid paper is really good to use. If you don't have grid paper, just use a ruler, which I've misplaced. You can just use a ruler. Again, I have a ruler that has centimeters and inches on it to measure up what you want to package. Or if you have our trimmer, you can just put whatever you're trying to measure on the trimmer and use the measurements there to see the width and the length that you need. And the trimmer is in imperial and metric, so there you've got both as well. So just going to move this paper over here, move these out of the way for a second, and I'm going to write on my grid paper. So here's my grid paper. Let's see if I can get that in the video. So basically, when you're making a box, I'm going to make a standard box that has a base and a lid. What you want to think about, I'll put it in the notes here. So to do a box, what you need to do is you need your length, which is L, and then you add 2 times the height, which is H, okay? You also need to know your width plus 2 times the height, okay? So now you're probably thinking, oh no, math, can't handle it, but I will show you easily how to figure that out on the grid paper. It's not difficult. So bringing our grid paper over here, whatever you want to package up. So if I want to do 3 Christmas crackers or 4 Christmas crackers, or maybe I want it to do a box for the dies. It doesn't matter what you're packaging up. You just need to know your length and your width and how high you want it to be. So on here, I'm just going to put my crackers the way I want them. So I'm just putting them right up to the edge there. And then I can see from the number down here, it's not that easy for you to see, that they're 13 centimeters long once they're tied up, okay? Which is approximately just over 5 inches, 5 1/8 inch. And because I want 4 of them, I want the box to go the whole way up. So again, using the corner here, I can see that they come to about 13.5 centimeters high. You could also take this, long, that's the width and that's the length. So you could also take your ruler and measure it up that way, but sometimes it's hard to judge, so it's better to put it on the paper. So I can see that it's basically coming up there and there. Okay, so that is my width. My width, which is the short part, width equals 13 centimeters. And my length, which is the longer part, equals 13.5 centimeters. So it's almost a square. Okay. Now I need to figure out how high my box is, because if I cut that, I'm just going to have a flat rectangle. So this one's easy to determine the height, because if I stand it up, I can then hold the edge next to the corner on my grid and see, looking there, depending on how they lay like that, okay. I can then determine that the height is about 3 and a bit centimeters. So it could go with 3.5, or I could go with 3. And keep in mind, if I'm going to have a lid on there, and it doesn't need to be complete height. So, because there's going to be some give with the lid. So for this, I'm going to say my height equals 3 centimeters, okay? So those are my numbers for a box like this. If I was doing 3 of them, then I would change the L to a different number because they wouldn't be as long there, okay? Hopefully you're still with me. So because we want to have sides on our box, we need to add the height, but we need to add it twice because essentially you've got the base of your box there, and then you're going to have a little bit of overhang on all 4 sides. That's going to be cut to make the box, which you'll see in a minute. So the dark lines are the width and the length, and then the lighter lines is going to be your height. So you've got the width here, and then you have the height on 2 sides. That's why you need height times 2. Hopefully that makes sense. So our width here is 13 centimeters, and then we want 3 for the height and another 3 for the height. So that gives us 19 centimeters. And then so the other dimension, the length, so that's width, and the length is 13.5 centimeters, and then we want 3 and 3, and those are pluses. So that gives us 19.5 centimeters. Now you could do this in inches if you need to. The nice thing is on the trimmer, you can easily convert your inches. So if I wanted to convert that to inches, I can look at the trimmer. 13.5 is 5 5/16. And then, you could go for the 3 centimeters, etc. So you can look right on here to convert it. So actually the final number there, 19, looks like it's about 7.5 centimeters. 7.5 inches. So 19 centimeters is 7.5 inches. 19.5 centimeters is about 7 3/4 inches. Okay. So trimmer is a good tool to have, not just for cutting and scoring things. So now that I have my measurements, I have to decide what I'm going to make my box out of. So I've decided the base of the box is going to be black because we've got the black background. And then you could make the top the same color, but in this case, I'm going to use the same designer series paper for the top of the box, just to give it some matching color. So that's where you need to get your trimmer out and start cutting. Cut and score. So the other thing too, with those measurements, your scoring is going to be the height as well. So we're going to score it at the height measurement at 3 centimeters on all sides. So for this, we've got one side is going to be 19 and one is going to be 19.5. Now I know this is 21 centimeters. The A4 is 21 centimeters on that side, so I'm going to cut this one at the smaller 19. And this is just the base that we're doing. So we're going to cut that at 19. And then this one we're going to cut at 19.5. So it's nearly a square. I could probably make it a square if I squished the crackers a bit, and then I can push that back in. And now I want to score everything at the height measurement, which was 3 centimeters. So I'll put it at 3 centimeters there, and now I'm going to use my scoring tool, which is the gray one, and I'm just going to go one side, turn it, 3 centimeters. I'm using the measurements on this side. I could do it this way and use the 3 centimeters on that side. Doesn't really matter which side you use, as long as it's 3 centimeters. And then we're going to turn it again. It's kind of hard to see with black. I should have used a different base color, but I'll bring it up to the camera so you can see it better. Okay, so there. So I've scored all the sides at 3 centimeters. So that's our base. Now, for the top, we don't have to go back and measure again because we already know our width, our length, and our height. But if I do the top this exact same size, it's not going to fit because I basically like 2 pieces that are same size and they won't come together. So you want to add a smidgen. I don't know if that's a technical term. It is now. So depending on how much room you want, but if you want it to fit snugly, the top of the box, just add like 0.3 centimeters. You could add half a centimeter, but it'll be quite loose, but I'm going to add 0.3. So this is the bottom. And then the top, we're going to have it, the width is going to be now 19.3, and the length is going to be 19.8. We will still score at the same height, at 3 centimeters all around, but because it's slightly bigger, that 3 centimeters will be a little further out than our previous scoring. So now I'm going to bring in my decorative top. So I could go with both the same colors and then maybe stamp or put something else on top to decorate it. If this was white, you could stamp right on it to decorate the top. If you are going to do that kind of thing, stamp before you make the box, before you fold it up. Stamp it while it's flat. It's much easier to do. So the other thing too is if you have directional paper, you've got to keep in mind which direction you want the image to be. So I purposely chose non-directional paper. The same with the Christmas crackers. If you have directional paper when you're die cutting it, you have to keep an eye on which direction the image is for this rectangular section, so it looks good when it's made up. So fortunately it's not directional on either side. So now I'm going to cut this at 19.3 and 19.8. So 19, 1, 2, 3. Don't know if you can see it over there. So that's 19.3. And now 19.8. So if you have 6x6 designer series paper and you want to make a box that's bigger than that, 6x6 inch rather, you need to you would probably need to glue a couple sheets together, or I suggest you do it in cardstock and then just cut some of the strips of the designer series paper. So I could cut strips just to decorate the edges of the box as well, but that just gets more complicated and make the video longer. So now I'm still going to score it at 3 centimeters on all 4 sides. So make sure you're using the scoring tool. Oh, that one I pushed really hard. Sounded like it ripped. That's the other thing is when you're scoring on designer series paper, don't push too hard. Because it will rip the paper, and I might have done that. I might have to start this one over. So when you're scoring, you just give it a gentle rub. If you're doing cardstock, go ahead and push harder, but it sounded like I might get away with that. It did tear a bit, but we'll see how it goes. All right, so both these pieces you're now going to cut the same way. You're going to fold and burnish them, and then you're going to cut them. So fold on the score lines and give it a burnish with your bone folder. And that just breaks up the cardstock and makes it easier to manipulate. The designer series paper you might not need to burnish because it's that thin, and as you just heard, it did sound like it tore, so I'm just going to rub it with my fingers so I don't get it to tear any more than it did. Oop. Okay, it did tear. So see how it tore there? Now I can cut another piece, or what I'm going to do is just get some sellotape and tape that section, and you probably won't be able to tell. If not, I'm going to have to start over. Okay, so I put some tape on the inside, so you won't see it on the outside, and it shouldn't be that noticeable. Okay. So, tip, do not press hard when you're doing the DSP. I forgot that I was doing designer series paper, and I did it a bit too hard. So what you want to do now on both pieces is cut through the score line just up to the fold, only on one section on each side. And to make it easier when you're making your box, if you do it slightly like a little triangular snip. So I start just to the side of the score line, and I angle it down to the center. Now, because I scored it, if I fold it, I know where I can stop. I mean, because I bent it. And then again, the other side at an angle right to the tip. So basically, I'm just taking a little sliver out. And that makes it so when you put your box together, it sits better, because sometimes you don't cut straight on the line. And I've done it before, and then there's too much hanging down and you can't make your box sit together nicely. So again, I'm just going to go an angle just to the tip and angle just to the tip. And then you want to do the opposite two sides. So angle through the center and angle to the center, a little snippet there. And you're going to do the same for the other piece. So if you're packaging something up, it doesn't have to be Christmas crackers, anything at all, and you want a square or rectangular box, this is what you do. So just using the length plus 2 times the height, and the width 2 times the height, that gives you your cutting sections. And it's very simple to do. And even if you have something that's not like square or rectangular, or maybe socks or something, you can still put it into a little box. You can make a nice tall box for something, skinny and tall. Keep in mind though, when you're doing your measuring, what kind of cardstock you have, because if it's quite big, you might need to get 12 by 12 inch cardstock to make the box big enough. Or you could make it where it has really tall sides and the lid isn't as deep, because if it's a tall box, you don't need the lid to go down the whole way. It could just cover the very top. So in that case, you wouldn't do 2 times the height. You would do 2 times whatever you want the height to be on that section. Okay, now we've got these cut out, and we're going to glue them together. So it's nicer to glue it on the inside, so the outside of the box looks nice and even. And as I said before, if we could have just cut strips to decorate the side with the designer series paper, but I wanted to show you to doing the top with the paper. So if you were doing cardstock on both and you had a limited amount of designer series paper, then I suggest you just cut sections to add to the sides of the box to decorate it. So the trick to this is trying to make sure your edges are lined up. So using my finger, I can feel if I'm hitting both of them, and this section should be flat as well. Now the bottom part where we cut that snip out, that allows you to push further in if you need to. So there's the glue, just put it together. Should have used a different color, it'd be easier for you to see. So there's the edges nice and straight, and also this top edge is nice and straight, see? Okay. And I do 2 at a time, I just find it's easier, just a bit of glue. You might think you want to use tape. The trouble with tape is sometimes it sticks down straight away. So liquid glue is preferred because you've got wiggle room. So again, just bring it up. Check that your edges are nice and smooth, straight, and this top edge is nice and straight. And the same here. When you're happy with that, then just go in and burnish, which means rub against the cardstock where you had the glue to make sure the glue is evenly dispersed. Okay, so that's my base. Now let's just check that everything fits. Yay, it worked. Okay. Not that I didn't think it was going to work. I did do one earlier just to test. So there you go. Fits nice and tidy in there. If you wanted to add extra wrapping or, you know, some paper or something to cover up what's in there, then you have to keep that in mind when you're making your base. Maybe add a little bit. So that for that, I might go an extra 1/2 centimeter or something just to give a little room in there to add extra wrapping. But this is nice, firm up to the top, and the edges, they might stick up a little bit, but the top's not going to matter because it's gonna not squish it down. It's just gonna sit flat. Okay, so the bottom's done. Yay, one step. Now we're gonna make our top here. Same way. We're gonna glue on the inside. And when you do this, you do your 2 sides like I showed you, right up to the edge. Make sure the edges match. And you don't want to push it too far in because then that actually makes the box smaller than what it's meant to be. So you want to make sure you got your edges that are matching nice and smooth. I'm busy looking at this, so if it's not on camera, sorry. I'm trying to see what I'm doing, okay? So you got your edges there. And because you have the wiggle room, you can even practice seeing, is it going to fit? Okay, that feels good. Okay, so then you do your last 2 bits. And this is where you have to double check, is it going to fit? So you trick to it is making sure your corners are square, nice and straight, and also making sure that you use liquid glue so you can move it into place if you need to. So I'm going to put the corners up. You definitely have to remember to give it that extra bit. And then if you try it on before it's stuck together, if you need to do any adjusting, you can then adjust it. Okay, so that looks good. The other nice thing with using designer series paper for the top is that it's a bit more flexible than cardstock. So if you're happy with it, then you go ahead and burnish it. That just spreads that glue into the spots it might not have gotten to already. So I just give it some burnishing. Yep. And so even though I ripped that one part, it's not that noticeable at a distance. If you look up close, yeah, you can see it, but it's not that noticeable. So then you can put your lid on your box. And I'm going to get some, then you could decorate it, like you could stamp something nice and a big, maybe a big Merry Christmas or something to that effect. But I'm just going to decorate it with a ribbon. So one thing, before you decorate it or close it up, I'm going to put ribbon on it. You might find if it doesn't pull, the lid doesn't pull off easily, if it's a bit tight, doing a little punch, half circle punch in the sides is a good idea. So that gives you a finger hold. If you don't have a circle punch, then while the lid's still flat, just use a circle die and only run half of it through on either side. But you have to do that while it's still flat. So if you've already put it together, then you're just going to have to do it with a punch. You could just take scissors and snip it out if you need to. So I'm just going to eyeball that. If you want, you could actually measure it properly. And then I'm just going to try to go on the opposite side. nobody's really going to have a close look, hopefully. And just punch that out. We don't sell the circle punches anymore, unfortunately, so I won't list that below, but with the die. So that gives us finger space to be able to grip. So you can grip the base and be able to pull the top off. Or if you're coming this way, you can put your fingers under those little grooves and pull it off. So that's something to remember to make it easier, especially if you make it where it's quite tight. Sometimes it can come off. So I've got the mini ruffled ribbon, and I'm just going to decorate it nicely with that. So because it's pretty ruffled, I can just go the traditional, you know, Christmas way where it's a square, or I think I might go the diagonal way. I'm not sure which one uses more or less ribbon, but I need to do it the other way around. So when you do your packaging, if you do it upside down, then you're going to end up at the right side on the top. So start upside down, come around. I always do mine while it's still on the roll. That way I waste less ribbon, because if you cut it beforehand, you might have way too much. So I'm just going to come up here, and I'm just going to tie my bow there. But before I do that, I've made, actually I tie it in the bow, I've made a little tag. The words were a bit too big, so I put them sideways and used the same little twine that I used for the Christmas crackers. Oop, it's not, there you go. And that little die for the tag is in the Christmas cracker dies. So I'm going to go ahead and attempt another bow on camera. So with the ruffled, it doesn't really matter which way you go. And then here I'm going to put my tag through. You could tie the tag on afterwards if you forget to do this part. That's fine, but I've already tied my tag. I'm just going to put that through for now and just make it sit how I want it to sit later on. So you could tie a knot if you want, and then they can just slip it off either side. But I'm going to attempt to just tie it as a bow. And again, I make my loop, I come through. Now I find if I come through the top part, then the bows are both going to sit at the same place. So I just come through, I think it's something about go around the rabbit, make the rabbit ear, go around the rabbit through the hole, something like that. I never really learned that story when I was a kid. Okay, so there's my bow attempt. Attempt number one, I'll say. See how it looks. See how everything sits, if it sits the way I want it to sit. No, I'm not liking that bow. Try again. I'm sure people on the camera are saying, no, do it this way, do it that way, do it this way. I'm sure you all have your favorite ways of doing things. I might end up gluing that down. Okay, so loop. Yeah, I tried that last time. Let's try it the way I normally do my bows. And let's see, how does this come out? I'll find the right end to pull. There we go. That came out pretty well. Still facing the wrong direction. I know, we'll go upside down. When it doesn't work out, go the other way. Don't worry about it getting loose on the back, because you can always tighten that up later. So let's try it this direction. Let's see how I come up. I think that's looking a bit better. There we go. So all of you that have trouble doing bows, you're probably loving the fact that I'm struggling a bit. And I always pull it tight again, down, and then I retighten it. That gives you a nice tight part. There we go. I think that's good enough. So once you're happy with the size of your bows, then that's when you can cut your ends off. And a diagonal is always nice. And that one. Okay. And now I'll just straighten up my Merry Christmas. And so now, because I did it that direction, I can actually slide things around on the back. And if I slide them around, I can get it lined up. So if it's too loose, you just push it further in. And this way, they can just simply slide the two edges off to get it off the packaging. You don't actually have to untie it. But there's my little tied message that says Merry Christmas. And there you go. So, hopefully you've learned something and enjoyed that. Just remember, when you are making your packages, if you need to make a package for a certain size Christmas gift or a birthday gift or any gift at all, so just remember the little rule. It's length plus 2 times the height, and the width plus 2 times the height to give you your measurements to cut. And then you just add a smidgen or a little bit extra for the top of the box. As I said, if we were doing a tall box, the base would be the height of whatever, like if we were doing a bottle, the height would go all the way up, but the top, we wouldn't need the top to go all the way down, so what would be considered the height for the top part wouldn't have to be as long. So I could add some more to decorate this, but I think with the designer series paper, it does a really good job because it's got so many colors and it matches the crackers that are inside. So let me just show you a couple other things that I've done. So this was my first prototype. And so this one here, I just did the white. It's very loose, so I don't have any handles on it, but I do have some decoration on the side. And so those are the Christmas crackers. I feel like this is Splendid Day, but I'll look it up and put it in the description so you can know what paper that was. That's designer series paper. And because it's so beautiful, I didn't even put any messages on it. I just got the different in color shimmer ribbon on the sides. And here I cut a square out of the top and just put a window sheet in there so you can see. So basically the Christmas crackers are the decoration, but I thought it looked a bit too plain with white. I could have stamped on it, I guess. When you make these Christmas crackers, as you see with the die, you're left with all these diamond shapes left over when you do your Christmas crackers. So I use those diamond shapes to decorate the top and the side of this box. So here's showing you, you can use them for lots of other things as well. So this is what gets left over when you make the Christmas crackers. So for those ones, I had these left over. So they're great. You can make things out of them. You can decorate cards. If you put them together a certain way, you can even come up with like stars, snowflakes, edge decorations. So you can see I could just use these offcuts. So these are the actual leftovers for making the Christmas crackers. And as you can see there, I've got a really nice looking star. So I can bring it in close, or I could spread it and make a bigger star. And then maybe just put a little circle, die cut circle in the center. Oh. And you could, make a Christmas ornament. Look at that star with the, pop a little circle in the center, and you've got yourself a little ornament, or you could use that to decorate your box. So don't throw away your little offcuts. So that one was the prototype, and it's a bit loose on the top. And as you can see, it was much more roomy on the inside. So I did larger measurements on that. So I could definitely wrap something else in there. And then just to show you other ideas with the Christmas crackers. So this one was made by a fellow demonstrator I got as a swap. And so that was all cardstock. So they stamped the cardstock first and then die cut it to make the box. And then they used the Scotty Dog punch to decorate it. So other ideas for your Christmas crackers. So this is one where directional paper, so you got to make sure you've got the right direction going when you die cut it. So for here, you want to make sure that your directional paper is going this way, so the little openings, you'll be able to see the image. And there's lots of dies in here that you can use to cut out messages, but you can also use the dies to cut a clear image and use your window sheet to put something inside there. I did that with one. I'll see if I can find it. So that's what I meant. So that I did it with the designer series paper, and I used one of these images dies here to cut a section out of the front and then put window sheet and then decorate it. Now this one is 4-sided. So I glued 3 of the sections together, or you can just die cut it where you set it up and you only die cut a few sections of it. But remember, whatever you want, so if you want it to be 4-sided, you have to always cut the 5th side so it can overlap to glue it together. This one actually has 6 sides to it and 2 overlap, which gives you the 5-sided. So that just shows another way that you can use that die. And this one here, I just added a bit of bling to turn it into a Happy New Year one. Again, that's one of the dies from the set. The paper, I forgot to mention that paper there, is host only selection. It's called Celebrate Everything Designer Series paper. And if you have purchased a certain amount of products, or you host a get-together and it goes over a certain amount, you end up with all this designer series paper. Lots of interesting paper for all kinds of occasions. Double-sided as usual. And so that's where I've got all these different colors from. And being 12 by 12, it's perfect size for making like the Christmas crackers. Just to show you another idea. So that was using the Christmas crackers, and I cut it in the paper, and I glued 2 of them together. So I did 2 of these, glued the sides together, folded down the tops, and folded under the bottoms, and then put a piece there. Let me see if I can show you. Take the lollies out. So that was the Halloween. So you can see how the top is folded down. So that Christmas cracker die can be used for lots of things. So when I die cut it, I didn't die cut the full edges, and then folded it down and gave it that, and then just cut some different images out to do a Halloween one. So, oh, yep, and then one last one. This was, again, a swap with a fellow demonstrator. So this just shows you another box that you can make, another type. I was talking about putting the designer series paper on the edge if we did the same color on the top. But this box here is made from one piece of A4 cardstock. And they sized it to put some miniature cards in of the gnomes. I love the gnomes. And see how that's got a flip top. So it's not a separate piece for the top. And that one there, I'll hold this up if you want to take a screenshot. So that was what it is. It's done with one A4 piece. I'll hold this for a second if you want to do a screenshot. So that's to make the box. And then to decorate the box, it tells you what size designer series paper. Now, here in New Zealand, we use metric, so that's why everything's in centimeters. But I did show you how you can convert things using your trimmer easily to see different sizes. And then it talks about the size of the cards. So, let's see. I'll hold that up for a minute for a quick screenshot. And then you can do that one for the cards. And then that's the envelopes. Okay, so that was a swap I got from Tracy Jones in Whanganui. Thank you so much, Tracy. I am planning to recreate that box. So that's another style. So that one, you'd only end up with this size box, where what I showed you today, you can measure out to have any size box that you might want. So I hope you enjoyed that, and please give me a thumbs up if you did. And make sure that you click on the links below so you can hop over to some other wonderful packaging ideas from demonstrators from around the world. And you have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And make sure you subscribe, because I will be doing more videos. I definitely do the global one once a month, but quite often I do 2, 3, or maybe even more between that time. Enjoy your holidays. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.